Australia's tourism industry has suffered an unprecedented blow over the festive period. According to new figures out, commissioned by the Tourism and Transport Forum, businesses lost around $3 billion over the Christmas New Year's weeks. Joining me live now is the CEO of the Tourism and Transport Forum, Margy Osmond. Good afternoon to you, Margy.
Afternoon.
Margy, these figures are astounding. Businesses in New South Wales alone are collectively losing $125 million a day. You anticipate that figure is higher in the likes of Victoria. These are massive numbers.
Yes, they are. Essentially, from the 24th of December through to about the 11th of January, Australians would normally spend on their holidays about $5.5 billion. So essentially, on the basis of our projections, which were made a couple of weeks ago when borders first started closing, they would be losing across the country about $3 billion, as you rightly point out. However, since we did those figures, of course, Victoria has now closed to all of New South Wales, not just Greater Sydney. So my fear is that that figure is now going to be substantially higher with those Victorians who, of course, hustled home as soon as the borders looked like closing if they were staying in regional communities.
Let's use the Northern Beaches as one example. That cluster, it peaked, it took place during peak season. The whole area had to close down. How are they compensated? How do they claw back from that off the back of what had already been such a difficult year?
Yeah, look, it's been a tragic year for the tourism industry, and I've said this many times before, but I'm going to say it again. We can't recover without international borders being open, but we can't survive unless this issue around domestic borders is sorted out and we get some sort of uniformity in terms of what the triggers are and what the responses are, because nobody can plan for it. Essentially, some of those regional communities south, places like Pambula and Merimbula or Eden, they were running Welcome Back Victoria campaigns when everybody sort of left and went home last week. It's just a terrible shame. And I think from a compensation perspective, I'm not quite certain what there is in that space, but there's one thing that I am certain about, and that is the JobKeeper will need to be extended for the tourism industry way beyond March.
I've said this a few times today in the last couple of hours that it won't be extended beyond March. But really, we've really got to see the Prime Minister come back earlier than next month and have these conversations because, coming off the back of the bushfire crisis, which had come off the back of the drought, and now a year of COVID, which obviously it's not going anywhere, surely something has to be done because there are countless people without work, without income, without any future or hope. Yeah, hope is the word, I suppose.
Yes, it is. Look, I think that, while I'm sympathetic to a whole range of industries, I don't think anybody is as viscerally affected by this situation as the tourism industry is. For us, every time a border closes unexpectedly or whatever else may occur, we are affected more than anyone else. And for this to have happened right now in a highly seasonal industry is just devastating. Look, we've been saying routinely it's going to take 4 to 5 years for the industry to recover. And that's probably been quite conservative.
Yeah. Do we need to be looking at a national border agreement? Because that is the other thing. Borders are closing left, right and centre at any outbreak. There's no consistency. That it's so confusing, I imagine, for business owners as well. Should we be far more united on this matter?
There's no doubt that we should be. I think probably, a federated system is a wonderful thing, except when it isn't a wonderful thing. And at the moment, this issue of a different response from every state makes it very much less than wonderful. We do understand absolutely that health has to be the number one priority for every government, state, federal or local. But there also needs to be some consideration given to the fact that if businesses can't get certainty about what triggers and outcomes look like, they've got no way of planning or having an understanding of when things are going to occur. And travellers are equally terribly affected by this because it does affect their confidence levels, and it's going to take a long time without some certainty and unified stance on what happens in terms of border closures for people to feel comfortable about booking and travelling interstate when they can again.
Oh, absolutely right. There are forecasts that a third of tourism in this country won't recover keeping in mind that many of these are small businesses, they won't recover from this. What do they do, especially in regional centres and the like, where, yeah, what do they do?
Well, look, the very sad part about this is that this is critical content within the industry that we really desperately need if we're going to have a thriving Australian domestic marketplace, as well as when we open to the internationals again, in terms of having great offerings. And I think the other thing that's particularly sad about this is that for many people over the last 6 months in particular, even very small companies, they've used this as an opportunity to innovate. So there's some wonderful things happening out there. The problem will be the confidence that people will or won't have now to travel to those places. And how do those businesses survive? Well, it's going to be things like JobKeeper, and it's going to be, significantly enhanced funding going to the tourism agencies around the country. And we are going to have to see local government engaging to support critical parts of their own local infrastructure within the tourism space.
I suppose just lastly, before I let you go, what is the message to those? Right now, the borders are down. We really can't go anywhere. But what is the message to those Australians sitting at home, thinking about planning a holiday or thinking about a weekend away or whatever you can do within your capabilities right now? What's your message to people about showing support to the industry?
Well, look, showing support to the industry would be a wonderful thing. But I would also say to all of those people who are sitting at home worrying about whether or not they should book a stay away, gosh, everybody needs a break and a little bit of joy at the moment. So give yourself some time away. With a little bit of research, you can find the right place and not be bothered by what may or may not happen with the borders. But I think that this is one of those times when the tourism industry is providing a vital service, if you like, too, allowing people to get a little bit more joy out of life and getting the rest that many people will be needing. Because while there are, tragically, a lot of people who've been made unemployed by this situation, there are large numbers of people who are working every hour of the night and day. So equally, I think there's a real need for giving those people some respite. And gosh, I suppose the only other thing you can say is, aren't we lucky to live in Australia? Because if we can't go far from home, there's still so many wonderful things to see and do.
Oh, we are in the most beautiful country in the world. We are very lucky to be here. Margy Osmond, CEO of the Tourism and Transport Forum of Australia, thank you so very much for your time.
My pleasure entirely.